Hello and welcome to Week 5, Unit 5 of Application Development for SAP Business by Design. In this unit, we're going to look at mass data run objects. Now, we've seen many different ways to work with data in the system, whether it's through integration or user interaction, analytics, forms. Here we're going to be working with mass data runs. And mass data runs are essentially ways that we can run an automatic process for some type of action in the system. Some may call it a batch job, for example. It basically allows us to take some type of action that we can either trigger to run automatically or schedule it to run at a certain time, and it'll go through and run this action for the number of objects it decides upon. We have in SAP Cloud Application Studio a wizard that makes it very easy for us to generate these mass data runs and be able to schedule them appropriately with another set of UIs that it generates. And we can put these UIs in our existing work center to be able to work with them. Now, some examples of what might be a mass data run. It could be an invoice run, where you have a set of invoices that need to be processed. It could be a nightly status update, where you need to go through and check the status or state of a number of objects and then store that info somewhere, or maybe you send an email or even an integration to another system. Another one could be an external system check. Maybe you have an external system that you want to periodically follow up with to see what it's doing, what the status is, and what the data might be like, and then bring that data back. So you can use a mass data run and schedule it to run every night to be able to do this check for you so you don't have to. So we're going to go ahead and create our own here. I'm going to jump into the studio. I'm logged into the SAP Cloud Application Studio with my development user. And I'm going to go ahead and right-click on my business object. And before I can create my mass data run, I need to create a new query. Now, obviously, every object and each node of those objects we get gets an automatic query by elements created for it by the framework. This means a query with all of the elements of that node available for it to be able to query for it. But we actually need to create a new query here, so the mass data run can actually use that. It can't use the query by elements that's there by default. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a name. I could even use the include an enterprise search, which allows me to make my object available in the global search that's part of the SAP Business by Design application. So if in the search in the top left-hand side, I could add my object so it could be searched there. And here's where I do it. For now, I'm going to leave it out. And let's go ahead and say next. It tells me what data do you want to include in this search, what should be possible to be searched. So I'm just going to select some parameters for now and say next. What should be the selection in there if I want these as part of a basic find, so just a simple search on a table, for example. And what should be in the result. And next and finish. So now we have that query. We'll activate this, and then we can use this this new query to be able to create our mass data run. Let's go ahead and activate that. If I want to come back and change it anytime, I can. It's stored under the business object itself, and I can always come in and adjust what parameters should be in there. So for example, if I add 2 new fields tomorrow, I obviously want to be able to potentially add those fields to my query as well. And so I can come back to the business object, and below it is this new query, and I can add it in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and right click on our object, and we'll say create mass data run this time. And we see here what's the name of it. Let's say for the name it will be calculate bonus MDR. What's the name of the business object and the nodes, the root, and what's the action? It's our calculate bonus action we're going to use. Let's go ahead and say next. And then I need to give it something to restrict them on. What should be some kind of parameter to filter these by, but when I trigger this. So let's go ahead and we'll just say start date is user selection. And next, and then I can allow parallel processing. So if I want, if I have 10 instances, can I process them all at the same time, or do I need to wait? We're going to allow it here. and then it keeps a log of what actually happens, and you can tell it how long you want to keep it, whether it's a day, a week, or a month. So if you, and what level of detail, errors or warnings or everything you want that log to have. So maybe you have something that's not very critical, you just want to be able to keep it short term, one day. That's great. If you have something that's a little more intricate or needs time to look at, then you can use the month. Let's do that and then finish. And we'll activate this. And now once it's active, I can go ahead and generate screens off of it. So I'll need these screens to actually be able to trigger this, to schedule it, to tell it when to run and to see what these logs are. And then I can, once I generate these screens, I'll be able to add them to my existing work center. I could put them in another work center if I like, and ideally I should put them wherever the work center is that makes the most sense, whether it's in the same work center as my business object, which would be a great place, or if it's another work center I've created that might have some other general admin tasks that I want specifically for my solution. Okay, our mass data run is active now. I'm going to go ahead and create my screens. If I just right click on my mass data run, it gives me the option to create the screens, and it's going to go ahead and create a quick activity floor plan, an OWL for it, an OWL, and a work center view. And the OWL will be already be assigned to that work center view. Now we just need to take that work center view and assign it to a work center. So we'll go ahead and just put it in our existing work center for now. And once this is done generating, we can add that in. I already have the work center, the UI designer open. I'm going to go into the configuration explorer and open up my work center. So here's my work center. I can see these new views are actually already available to me, which is great. Let's go ahead and create first a new area for this work center view to be added. So I can go into the view switches and be able to say add, okay, and let's select that, and then we'll go and just click and drag the calculate bonus MDR work center view into this empty area. Go ahead and say yes for the title and save and activate. So this then is now available to us. We can then log in with an admin user and assign this to someone. So let's go ahead and log out while this that is activating. And we'll log in with administration 01. And I think that should be done activating. Oh, close to though. While that's activating, let's go ahead and I'll open up the help content here. And if we go into developer desktop, you can see here's the mass data run is under there, and it gives all of the information about what they are, how they work, how you can build them, what actual tasks are needed behind these, and some examples of how they might work specifically. So there's lots of good info in the help documentation. We've looked at it a few different times, as well as having a whole unit dedicated to it. I can't stress enough at how helpful the help documentation can be to you, how important it really is. Anything we need to do, we can see how to do from the help documentation. So that's active. Let's go ahead and log in. And we want to assign this new Work Center view to a user. So let's go ahead and go to Application and User Management to do that. There we go. And we'll go ahead and look for Kate. And here's Kate Jacobs. Let's go ahead and edit access rights, and we should see this new Work Center view under our bonus plan Work Center. So if I open that up, and there it is. Here is the calculate. Let's go ahead and select that and hit save. Yes, that's okay. And then once that's saved, we'll go ahead and log out. Now we've always only had one view in our Work Center so far, so we haven't seen any options come up when we go to mouse over our bonus plan Work Center. Now that we have at least two, we should see a number of options. We should see our bonus plans and then the calculate bonus. So you can see now we actually have two. We've always been using the bonus plan view by default. Now we actually want to go to that calculate bonus MDR view. And this is what it looks like. It shows us what runs we currently have. We have none. We can go ahead and create a new run. And I'll just give it an ID here, test run, and a description. And then I need to give it some type of criteria, right? So we have to, I selected a date. For us, I don't want a specific date. Well, we could use the date, for example, here. Actually, if I want, I could even probably just leave this empty for now and save that and activate this. No, we'll have to put one in. That's okay. Let's take start date equal to 4/1/24. We can even exclude this and say anything not equal to this date. So basically it should process it for everything in our solution, and we'll activate it. I can schedule it from here. Let's go ahead and schedule it to start immediately, and I can do it similar to my file inputs on after another job on a specific date time or periodically. So now that should be running for all of these objects, and if I go back here I can see it, and it's currently processing. That's great. It might take it a while. It finished. Good. I could look at the application log and see what happened. If there's an error, it looks like there was an error, probably because we had some weird data in our objects here. But that is our mass data runs. So mass data runs will allow us to provide, like I said, some kind of automated mass processing of an action on an object. So we were able to create that for our object. You see we had to create the new query, the mass data run itself, generate the new screens, assign those screens to our work center, and then we could actually use that after we assign it to a user. So you can say on what set this should be used of data. It wants some kind of restriction, but there's ways to make it run for all instances even if you want. That's kind of what we did in this case. I just put some funky data in there that I knew that any of the data that I have would never fall into that problem of that specific date. So mass data runs give us a great way to do some essentially batch jobs or mass process some actions for a business object, which is something that is very helpful to us in some of our requirements. So that ends this unit and this week. Next week, week 6 is our last week. We will go through business configuration in more detail. We've already worked our BOK element a couple times already, just on an as-needed basis, but we'll see what it is in detail and also go through all of the lifecycle management of a solution. So with that, thank you very much.